Zeit weht nach Frankfurt.
From forests bordering production areas, wild boar herds began appearing with increasing frequency. They often moved into fields, open land, and crop areas instead of staying near the forest edge as before. Each herd consisted of 3 to nearly 10 animals moving together before quickly scattering in different directions as they entered the production zones. Residents repeatedly saw the herds crossing fields during both the day and night. Some herds returned to the exact same locations over many consecutive days and continued expanding their activity range around the area. Damage quickly spread after repeated appearances of herds. Large sections of land in the middle of fields were dug up, leaving long trenches after each time the boars passed through. Numerous crop rows were trampled, leaving many areas unable to recover within a short period. More concerning was that the boars often returned to the same places that had previously been damaged instead of moving elsewhere. In many residential areas, yards and grassy spaces also began to be heavily torn up. The affected area gradually expanded into many other production zones throughout the region. After the seriousness of the situation was identified, trap systems began to be deployed at many key locations. Some circular traps were installed on wide, open land to contain many animals at the same time when the herd gathered. In addition, rectangular traps were placed along narrow pathways between open ground and crop areas. Steel frames were firmly secured to the ground to withstand strong impacts when the herd panicked inside. The trapdoors were kept fully open to create a natural feeling for the herd as they passed through and approached the baited area. While the trap systems remained in place, monitoring activities continued continuously to determine the exact times when the herds appeared. Cameras and observation equipment were deployed around areas with footprints and feeding signs frequently. Aerial devices were also used for observation, helping identify the movement routes between the forest and production areas more clearly. Through this monitoring process, many familiar movement paths of the herds gradually became visible around the trap locations. The monitoring team continued checking herd activity every day. During the following appearances, the wild boars began approaching the baited areas. The first animals usually moved quite slowly and constantly observed their surroundings before entering the traps. They walked around the edge of the traps for a short time before gradually moving deeper toward the food area. When no danger was detected, the animals behind quickly followed in successive small groups. The number of boars inside the traps steadily increased after each movement of the herd. Before long, most of the herd gathered around the bait area and significantly lowered their level of caution. Yes, soon as the right moment appeared, the entire trap system was activated almost simultaneously. The steel doors slammed shut extremely quickly, completely blocking every exit before the herd could react. Only seconds later, the entire area became chaotic as the trap boars rushed in different directions, searching for escape routes. Some animals crashed forcefully into the steel frames, but could not break the structures that had been firmly secure beforehand. Additional traps around the area were also activated to prevent the herd from scattering in other directions during the containment process. After the control operation was completed, the wild boars were kept stable inside the system before being transported away from the production area. As the herd numbers decreased, the destructive pressure on agricultural areas also gradually declined over time. Many areas that had previously been repeatedly damaged slowly gained time to recover. The land stabilized again, crops began to regrow, and production activities gradually returned to a more normal state.
We're gonna get here, get what we need, and hey, 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 yeah, hey, 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 hey. All right, guys, there you go.
Load of hogs in there today.
Every year, Texas faces more than 2 million wild boars that cause hundreds of millions of dollars in damage to agriculture and the environment. This species is considered one of the most dangerous invasive animals in the United States because of its remarkable adaptability and rapid reproduction. From cornfields to livestock operations, signs of rooting and ground disturbance are becoming increasingly common. They destroy crops, consume bird eggs, attack young animals, and compete with native wildlife for food resources. As their population grows beyond manageable levels, farmers are forced to look for more effective solutions. At first, individual hunting and trapping methods failed to provide long-term results. Wild boars have excellent memories. and a single escape can cause them to remember a location and change their behavior for a long time. As a result, experts shifted toward group trapping systems designed to capture entire sounders. Circular steel mesh traps became increasingly popular on Texas farms because they reduced the chances of animals crowding into corners while searching for an escape route and helped minimize injuries. Building an effective trap requires far more effort than most people expect. Large steel panels are assembled into a sturdy circular enclosure and secured with steel posts driven deep into the ground. Every connection point must withstand the force of animals weighing hundreds of pounds. If even one section is weak, the entire structure can fail within seconds. For this reason, trap construction combines technical skill with field experience and a solid understanding of animal behavior. Corn is the most commonly used bait because it is highly attractive to wild boars. During the fall, when crops begin to mature, boar activity often increases significantly. They travel along hidden trails and use terrain and vegetation to avoid detection. This behavior explains why entire fields can suffer extensive damage overnight before landowners even realize the animals were present. In addition to fixed traps, many farms use modern net trap systems that provide a more open environment and make boars less suspicious. When paired with suitable bait, these systems can capture an entire sounder in a single activation. Experts generally consider whole group capture far more effective than removing animals one at a time. One of the best-known systems is the heavy-duty steel drop-gate trap. After being assembled from large mesh panels, the gate automatically closes when the boars trigger the mechanism. The design is engineered to withstand powerful impacts from adult animals. Its large size and flexible configuration make it suitable for a wide range of environments, including grasslands, open woodlands, and agricultural areas. After capture, wild boars are transported to licensed facilities for health inspections and processing under established regulations. Each animal is tested for infectious diseases to ensure biosecurity before entering the food supply chain. Wild boar meat contains less fat than domestic pork and is rich in protein, making it increasingly popular in many markets. what was once viewed solely as a destructive invasive species, has also become a valuable resource for the food industry. Not everyone relies on trapping methods. However, in some rural areas, professional hunters are still hired to help reduce wild boar populations. These operations usually take place at night, when the animals are most active. Hunters use specialized optics, surveillance cameras, and night vision equipment to locate and monitor their targets. Even so, success depends heavily on the skill and experience of the hunter, as wild boars learn quickly and become increasingly wary of human threats. Today, experts agree that no single method can completely control wild boar populations. The most effective approach combines group trapping, camera monitoring, population control hunting, and reproductive management strategies. As wild boar numbers continue to rise, the challenge of managing the species remains far from over. If you found this video helpful, leave a comment sharing the most effective wild boar control method you know, and subscribe to the channel for more fascinating stories.
For generations, wild hogs have devastated crops, outsmarted farmers, and pushed through countless barriers built to stop them. But amid years of frustration and relentless field research, farmers gradually uncovered methods so effective that wildlife experts are still studying them today. Some of these strategies work in ways that are not immediately obvious. Others are surprisingly simple. And stay with us until the end, because the final method completely changed how people fight back against these destructive animals. In October 2023, a rice and corn farmer in Chambers County, Texas, witnessed something that completely changed the way he viewed wild hogs. In a single night, his surveillance cameras recorded a sounder of 58 feral hogs entering his field at exactly 11:42 p.m. By sunrise, more than 60% of his crops had been destroyed. According to reports from Texas A&M AgriLife Extension, the damage was estimated at nearly $38,000. Wildlife biologists describe wild hogs as animals that are willing to accept high risks for high rewards. When calorie-rich food sources such as corn, rice, or peanuts are available, their feeding instincts often overpower their caution. An adult boar weighing around 200 pounds can consume more than 13 pounds of food per day. That enormous energy demand pushes them into places that most other animals would avoid. For decades, farmers tried nearly every possible solution, from fencing and floodlights to noise-based deterrents. Over time, modern trapping strategies began to emerge. Instead of trying to scare hogs away, farmers created bait sites that gradually guided them toward large traps. After returning night after night, the animals became comfortable with the location. By the time they entered the trap area, they no longer viewed it as a threat. In their minds, it was simply the most reliable food source they had found. That was when researchers discovered something important. Fear was not the deciding factor. Wild hogs have limited vision, and while their sense of smell is highly developed, it can be influenced by familiar scents. The real key turned out to be timing. That breakthrough became clear in September 2022 when multiple farms across South Texas, working with the Caesar Claber Wildlife Research Institute, deployed trap monitoring systems equipped with infrared cameras. After months of observation, researchers found that wild hogs did not move randomly. Most feeding activity occurred between 10:30 p.m. and 2:15 a.m., and more than 70% of crop raids took place during that narrow window. The findings quickly changed how farmers operated their traps. Rather than capturing the first hogs to arrive, they waited until the entire sounder gathered inside.
Thank you, sir.
What's really interesting here.
In one documented case from November 2023, a farmer watched a group of 26 hogs enter a baited trap area at 11:58 p.m. He continued to wait and did not trigger the trap until 12:07 a.m., when every animal was fully focused on feeding. The result was remarkable. The entire sounder was captured in less than 10 seconds. That story highlights an important lesson in the battle against wild hogs. Success does not come from building bigger traps, stronger fences, or more intimidating deterrents. It comes from understanding exactly how these animals think, move, and make decisions. Once farmers shifted from direct confrontation to working with the natural behavior of wild hogs, the balance began to change. Sometimes, the most powerful tool in the field is not the trap itself, but the patience to activate it at precisely the right moment.
Wild boars have long been one of the most destructive invasive animals in many parts of Canada. In Alberta, the problem has become increasingly concerning as wild boar sounders continue to appear near residential communities and agricultural land. The damage they cause is estimated to exceed $800,000 annually. As natural food sources become scarcer, groups of 20 to 50 animals are moving deeper into areas where people live. They rummage through garbage bins, damage landscapes, and leave behind contaminated areas that have become a growing concern for local residents. In the early stages, many communities chose to build protective fencing. Heavy-duty galvanized steel fences were designed to provide long-lasting protection, often remaining effective for decades. Each system was carefully installed to prevent wild boars from entering homes, gardens, and public living spaces. However, construction costs were substantial, and maintaining these barriers required continuous time, effort, and financial investment. Even so, fences only remained effective for a limited period. Wild boars are highly adaptable animals.
又天啊，这被卡住了，太可怜了。
They constantly observe their surroundings and quickly learn how to overcome new obstacles. In many locations, fences that once worked well gradually lost their effectiveness as the animals altered their travel routes or discovered weaknesses in the protection systems. As a result, wildlife managers were forced to search for more proactive control methods. After years of testing, net trapping systems began to emerge as one of the most effective solutions. Unlike fences, which only act as barriers, net traps directly reduce wild boar populations in affected areas. According to numerous reports, the widespread use of these systems has contributed to significant population declines in certain regions of Canada. However, to maintain ecological balance and comply with regulations, all control operations must be carried out under the supervision of authorized wildlife agencies. The nets themselves are constructed from high tensile strength materials capable of withstanding the impact of large adult boars. To increase success rates, operators use highly attractive bait with strong scents. One of the most common formulas consists of fermented corn mixed with specially selected additives. After several days of fermentation, the mixture produces an odor powerful enough to attract wild boars from considerable distances, encouraging them to return repeatedly to the trap site. When a sounder enters the baited area, the unique design of the net system begins to work. Part of the net is positioned close to the ground, creating the illusion that an escape route remains open ahead. Once the animals move deeper inside, however, they quickly become confined. The harder they attempt to escape, the more entangled they become within the net structure. This mechanism significantly increases the likelihood of capturing large groups at once rather than catching individual animals one at a time. After a trap is activated, control teams must inspect the site regularly to ensure timely management. Many operators report that a single successful deployment can capture anywhere from dozens to hundreds of wild boars. Most operations take place at night because that is when the animals are most active. Once the process is complete, all captured animals are collected and handled in accordance with current regulations. Special provisions regarding pregnant females and nursing mothers are also followed to minimize long-term impacts on ecological balance. The battle against wild boars in Alberta is far from over, but years of experience have demonstrated that understanding the behavior of these animals is far more important than simply building additional barriers. When behavior-based management strategies are applied correctly, they can achieve results that greatly surpass traditional approaches. If you found this story informative, leave a comment and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more fascinating stories about wildlife and conservation.
In deep forests completely separated from residential areas, wild boar herds have survived for many generations based purely on instinctive survival. They move in groups, always maintaining a high level of vigilance toward any changes in their surrounding environment. Each herd typically operates across a wide range to search for food, water, and safe shelter. Thanks to their strong adaptability, they can survive in many different types of natural forest terrain. However, when forest resources begin to change, the herds gradually expand their activity beyond familiar areas to maintain stable survival for the entire group. As food sources in the forest gradually decline, wild boar herds begin to expand their foraging range outside their original habitat. At first, they only appear around forest edges where nature and human agricultural areas intersect. Later, the herds gradually move deeper into agricultural zones, passing through fields, open land, and crop areas. These movement routes begin to repeat frequently, forming fixed patterns in specific areas. Increasing frequency of appearance makes many agricultural zones familiar operating grounds for wild boar herds over extended periods. Not limited to agricultural areas, wild boar herds continue expanding their range toward residential zones near forest and farmland. They appear along dirt roads, gardens, and suburban areas, especially at night. Some herds even move deeper into residential settlements to search for more accessible food sources. People begin to frequently observe their presence around living areas, raising concerns about safety and property. As a result, the herd's activity range is no longer limited to forests and agriculture, but has expanded into human-inhabited areas. Facing the expanding movement of wild boar herds, a group of hunters begins implementing a bow-based control strategy at the forest edge. They carefully study tracks, movement routes, and feeding habits to identify suitable ambush locations. Elevated positions, bushes, and hidden areas are prioritized. Hunters use bows to target individual animals when the herd splits or moves slowly. The strategy focuses on silence, distance, and precise timing to reduce the risk of detection by the rest of the herd. Alongside bow hunting, circular cage trap systems are deployed in open land areas near the herd's main movement routes. Steel frames are built into a solid closed ring structure designed to hold multiple individuals when the herd enters. The trap door is kept open to create a natural appearance, avoiding suspicion during approach. Food bait is placed at the center to lure the herd deeper into the controlled area. The surrounding environment is kept unchanged to mimic natural conditions, preventing the herd from detecting abnormalities during movement and feeding. During subsequent approaches, wild boar herds begin entering the baited area of the circular trap system. Leading individuals move slowly, continuously scanning the surroundings before stepping inside. When no danger is detected, those behind quickly follow in small groups. The number of animals inside the trap gradually increases with each wave of movement. Once most of the herd has gathered around the bait area, the trap system is activated at the predetermined moment. The steel gate slammed shut quickly, blocking all escape routes and fully containing the herd inside the control zone. After the control process is completed, the wild boar herd is removed from agricultural and residential areas.
Well, we'll see if we can get them loaded up. I think we got 22.
Farming regions gradually stabilize and crops begin to recover. Residents are no longer affected as before. The area slowly returns to safer and more stable conditions.
There you go. Oh, no.
In a vast agricultural region, wild boar herds began appearing more and more frequently. Contrary to what many people assume, they did not move in a chaotic manner. Instead, they often split into smaller groups, approaching from different directions while maintaining clear coordination. Within a short period of time, freshly rooted patches of soil started appearing throughout the crop rows, signaling the presence of animals that were steadily expanding their range of activity.
But when they're doing this in your crop fields, that's a big part.
As their numbers increased, the impact became more noticeable. The soil was torn apart, leaving long stretches of disturbed ground across the fields. Crops began to lean and eventually collapse onto the ground. Although the damage was not yet severe during the early stages, the continuous appearance of fresh signs made it clear that this was no longer isolated activity. An organized group of wild boars was gradually turning the area into a regular feeding ground. Each visit left behind additional sections of disrupted land that farmers had to spend considerable time repairing to confirm what was happening. The area was surveyed from the air. From a helicopter's perspective, the rooting damage appeared as long trails stretching across fields and grasslands. These signs did not exist independently, but connected together to form clearly defined travel corridors. Certain locations showed a much higher concentration of activity than others, indicating frequent gathering points for the herd. When compared with footage collected from trail cameras, the movement routes matched almost perfectly. These findings made it possible to identify the exact locations the boars used most often, rather than applying control measures across a wide area. Attention was focused on the most important travel corridors. These were the locations where contact with the entire herd was most likely. Understanding their movement patterns not only saved time, but also significantly improved the effectiveness of the management strategy that followed. Based on the routes that had been identified, a trapping system was positioned directly along the corridors most frequently used by the herd. The surrounding environment was left largely unchanged to avoid creating anything unusual that might raise suspicion. Instead of forcing the boars to alter their behavior, the entire system was designed to blend naturally into the landscape, encouraging them to continue following their established routines. The goal was not to make them wary, but to ensure everything appeared completely familiar. Next, bait was distributed in small amounts in the outer areas, leading gradually toward the center of the trap. This arrangement created a natural pathway that the boars could easily follow. The main food source was placed in the center, where it would have the strongest attraction. Over time, the location slowly became a familiar feeding site. Their initial caution began to fade as they repeatedly returned without encountering any signs of danger. Once the acclimation process was complete, larger numbers of boars began visiting the bait site. At first, only a few individuals entered to investigate. After determining that the area appeared safe, others quickly followed. The number of animals inside increased in waves until most of the herd had gathered around the central food source. This was also the most suitable moment to carry out the final stage of the plan. Every previous step had been designed to create this critical opportunity. As soon as the majority of the herd was inside the controlled area, the system was activated. The exits were quickly blocked, preventing the animals from leaving. The entire setup was then carefully monitored to ensure the operation proceeded in a stable and controlled manner. Reducing wild boar numbers significantly decreased pressure on agricultural land while lowering the risk of repeated damage in the future. If you found this story interesting, leave a comment and share your thoughts. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more wildlife stories from around the world.
A massive black bear suddenly appeared right beside the wooden fence behind the farm before dawn had fully broken. Within minutes, it tore apart several livestock feed containers before disappearing into the thick fog long before anyone could react. But what worried people most was not the damage caused that night. Huge footprints found continuously around the area for many days showed that the bear had returned many times before. It no longer wandered randomly through the forest like ordinary bears. It had begun learning how to approach the farm using the exact same trail every time, always appearing during the quietest hours and vanishing before any lights were turned on. In the mountainous regions of Northern America, wildlife control teams understand exactly how dangerous this can become. Once a fully grown bear becomes accustomed to food sources near human settlements, it will return more and more frequently. Over time, the boundary between the deep forest and residential areas almost disappears. Livestock farmers repeatedly discovered storage doors torn open, garbage bins overturned, and deep claw marks carved into trees right beside living areas. Several infrared cameras installed along the trail finally captured footage of the bear appearing in the middle of the night. It did not behave like a frightened animal. It looked more like something that had become far too familiar with the place. The very next morning, the control team began surveying the entire area surrounding the farm. They were not searching for the bear through noise or the freshest tracks. What they needed was to understand exactly how it moved. Large footprints appeared near a dry creek before disappearing into the pine forest behind the hill. One specialist quickly realized that the bear always avoided open spaces and moved only through dense forest corridors where light could barely pass through. That made direct pursuit almost useless. If the bear detected human presence too early, it could completely change its route and vanish deep into the wilderness for weeks. Instead of placing traps near the farm as usual, they decided to build a massive steel trap system deeper inside the forest. This was not the kind of trap that relied on violent force or loud mechanical noise. The entire structure was designed to resemble a natural tunnel, with dark steel panels blended carefully into the surrounding environment. Inside, they placed only a small amount of strong-smelling bait to encourage the bear to move farther in without sensing danger. Most importantly, the trap door remained fixed and inactive during the first several days. For nearly an entire week, infrared cameras continuously recorded the bear appearing around the trap area. On the first night, it simply stood at a distance for a long time before leaving. On the second night, it moved several meters closer before suddenly turning back toward the deep forest. It was not until the fifth night that the bear finally began stepping inside the steel enclosure. But even then, it constantly paused to smell the air and inspect every small movement around it. The moment the heavy steel door suddenly slammed shut in the silent darkness, the entire forest shook from a violent impact. The bear immediately lunged forward with terrifying strength, causing the entire steel frame to tremble violently. but the anchored system beneath the ground held firmly in place. After several minutes of relentless struggling, the animal slowly began to calm down before standing motionless inside the pitch-black trap, its breath turning into streams of white vapor in the freezing air. As daylight slowly emerged, the thick fog behind the pine forest gradually faded away, revealing the massive steel trap resting silently in the middle of the clearing. For many people living near the forests in North America, this was not simply a story about capturing a wild bear. It reflected the increasingly tense conflict between humans and wildlife as the boundaries of survival continue to shrink. Wildlife control teams understand that they can never completely erase the instincts of nature. The only thing they can do is try to preserve that fragile balance before both humans and animals are forced to pay the price.
Good job, eh?
Feral hogs are not just wild animals living out in grasslands or deep forests. In many parts of the United States, especially in Texas, they have become a real ecological and economic disaster. Every year, they cause hundreds of millions of dollars in agricultural damage, destroying crops, tearing up pastures, knocking down fences, contaminating water sources, and directly threatening livestock. What makes the problem even more alarming is how quickly they reproduce. If even a small population is left unchecked, feral hog numbers can surge after just a few breeding seasons, spreading damage across the agricultural map like an oil spill. To respond to this crisis, the U.S. Department of Agriculture launched the Feral Swine Control Pilot Program, with tens of millions of dollars in funding to support the states hit hardest by the problem. Among them, Texas has always been seen as the epicenter, because it has vast open land, countless ranches, wild areas mixed with residential zones, and conditions that are almost perfect for feral hogs to multiply. But even as federal and state funding continues to flow in, the heaviest burden still falls on landowners. They have to pay out of pocket to build fences, set traps, hire crews, install cameras, and repair the damage left behind after feral hogs sweep through their land overnight. Among today's control methods, feral hog trapping is considered one of the most important strategies. Many trap systems are designed as large circular or square enclosures, wide enough for an entire sounder to enter without feeling threatened. Inside the trap, fermented corn or other strong-smelling bait is often placed for several nights in a row to draw them in. In the early stage, the trap gate is usually kept open so the hogs can get used to the area. They walk in and out naturally, feed on the bait, leave tracks behind, and slowly drop their guard. This is the most critical step, because if the trap is triggered too early, the entire plan can fail. Remote surveillance cameras act like the eyes of the control team. From a phone or tablet, landowners can watch every movement inside the trap and trigger it only when the entire sounder has entered. At the right moment, the heavy gate drops, seals off the exit, and holds the whole group inside within seconds. One perfectly timed trigger can prevent months of damage across an entire ranch.
Okay, we're setting the boar blanket up.
In addition to traditional drop gate traps, many areas also use passive net traps, a method highly valued because it takes advantage of the hog's natural behavior. Instead of creating an obvious gate that might make them suspicious, this system uses soft netting, steel posts, and tension lines to form a large enclosure. At first, the net is raised so the hogs can move freely inside to feed. After several nights of observation, once they have learned the route and no longer sense danger, the net is lowered close to the ground. Feral hogs can still push their way inside by using their snouts and natural rooting behavior, but once they are in, the structure of the net makes it extremely difficult for them to find a way back out. However, even with the most advanced traps, Texas still has not been able to fully solve its feral hog problem. They reproduce too quickly, spread across too much territory, and can survive in many different environments, from forests and grasslands to wetlands and suburban edges. If control efforts are not maintained continuously, even a few remaining sounders can be enough for the population to rebound quickly. That is why feral hog trapping is not a one-time solution, but part of a long-term strategy that combines surveillance, land management, and community coordination. The story in Texas is not just about an animal destroying crops. It is a reminder of what happens when an invasive species grows beyond control, when ecological balance is broken, and when humans are forced to respond with technology, money, and patience. Smart traps can hold an entire sounder of feral hogs in a single night, but the bigger question still remains. Can humans truly control nature, or are we simply chasing the consequences created by that imbalance?
David, I believe this one's eating a plate. Yeah, she's hurt a little bit. We're doing a good job, eh? I guess.
And it doesn't seem as many when you stack them tight.
Yeah.
But
Chin tries to combat that cost by helping landowners trap the feral hogs.
Wild boars are no longer just wild animals that appear along forest edges or abandoned land. In many states across the United States, they have become a major threat to agriculture, the environment, and rural life. Texas alone is now home to about 3 million wild boars, causing more than $670 million in agricultural damage each year, not including control and repair costs. They tear through crops, destroy fences, damage pastures and water sources, compete with native wildlife for food, and increase the risk of spreading disease to livestock. If even a small group is left unchecked, they can spread rapidly after just a few breeding seasons, turning a local problem into a much larger crisis.
Once more.
In response to this growing threat, the U.S. government has had to roll out large-scale control programs to reduce the pressure wild boars place on agriculture and ecosystems. One of the most important efforts is the Feral Swine Control Pilot Program, supported by the USDA with a total budget of $75 million for heavily affected states. In the first round alone, more than $16.7 million was allocated to 20 projects across 10 states. Texas is considered the center of the crisis because of its vast land area, dense network of farms, and wild boar populations that have spread across many different types of terrain. Texas does not rely only on federal funding. The state also draws support from state agencies, agricultural organizations, private landowners, and professional control teams. Each year, landowners in Texas are reported to spend about $130 million on fencing, monitoring equipment, damage repair, and trapping efforts. But even as investment continues to grow, success remains difficult. For many ranchers and farmers, wild boar control has become a regular part of life because they are not just dealing with a destructive animal, but with a highly flexible population that can adapt, avoid danger, and change its travel routes after every disturbance. In modern control strategies, smart traps are considered one of the most important tools. Instead of placing traps at random, control teams use cameras, motion sensors, and remote monitoring devices to study the habits of each sounder for several days. They track when the boars appear, the paths they use, and how the group approaches a food source. The key is not to trigger the trap too early. If only a few animals are caught, the rest quickly become cautious and may avoid the area altogether. That is why the goal is not to remove individual boars one by one, but to wait for the right moment and capture the entire sounder at once. This patience is what makes smart traps far more effective than scattered control methods used in the past. alongside large round trapping systems. Many areas in Texas still use steel box traps to handle smaller groups of wild boars or sounders that often appear near residential areas. These traps work well in narrow locations where large systems are difficult to set up or where the safety of people and livestock must be protected. Control teams usually place them near familiar travel routes, creek banks, feeding areas, or fresh rooting signs. During the first few days, they allow the boars to get used to the trap and the food inside. Once the group begins entering regularly, the system is triggered at the right moment. Although smaller than massive corral traps, box traps still play an important role in Texas's layer control strategy. Yet even with more advanced technology and growing control budgets, Texas still cannot claim victory over wild boars. They reproduce quickly, travel across wide areas, adapt well, and learn from every close escape. One area may reduce its numbers, only for another sounder to appear somewhere else. Once one route is blocked, they immediately find another path through the woods, along creek beds, or across quiet land where few people go. That is why this battle is not just about traps, fences, or money. It also reveals the limits of human control when an invasive species has already moved beyond the original boundaries of management. And after everything, one question still remains. Are we truly controlling nature, or are we only chasing the consequences we created ourselves?